Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, good morning still. First of all, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to WWF Pakistan for inviting me and enabling me to make a contribution, hopefully, to this exciting initiative. I would also send my regards to all the respectful delegates from all the river dolphin state countries, the Pakistan government and other government delegates from the countries of the river dolphins, the scientists, the academicians, the NGOs. So my name is Danielle Kreb. I'm working for a local NGO in East Kalimantan in Borneo, in Indonesia. I've been working there for 20 years, mostly starting out with doing research, collecting data, and then we started conducting conservation work. Once we got the data and we have a program running, it works quite well. This year we had a success with a protected area that has been established, around 42,000 hectares. That is including significant wetlands, river dolphin areas, and also fish spawning areas. Okay, so this initiative that is about creating a CMP, a conservation management plan, where we can hopefully all collaborate, different governments from the river dolphin range countries, and hopefully NGOs can also make a contribution. I think the proposed CMP currently, as it is, focusing on sustainable fisheries and tackling the threats that also arise from fisheries in general, is a very smart approach, because I think the different species all have their own unique conservation needs and maybe also problems. So, but we discovered was that the most thing that can unite us is a common approach that focuses on these fisheries and how to achieve the sustainable fisheries. Maybe the next slide. So the importance and the impact of fisheries on dolphins is one thing. On the other hand, actually dolphins can also contribute on the sustainable fisheries as well, not only by creating conservation areas and protecting fish spawning areas, but also actually do their physical appearance in certain rivers. Where dolphins are, they make a contribution because they use vertical movements in these rivers, where they kind of make them more fertile, yeah, because the plankton from it goes like mixed, and then it goes to the surface, and then you have a whole chain reaction of the food chain. So actually, where you have dolphins, this is also actively contributing to fishery stocks, and that is also something I would like to add. But yes, importance. Why is it important? The fisheries for river dolphins, of course, it's their prey resources. Yeah, that's their main prey resources, and also it's very important for the threats, because most of the threats of the dolphins, as we heard from the previous presentations, arise actually from unsustainable fishing techniques and also mortalities. If we go to the next slide, we can, in the world, they estimated around 300,000 whales and dolphins getting entangled in fishing gear. That is a significant number. Also, for 11 of the 13 populations or subspecies or species of critically endangered cetacean species are contributed because of the mortality arise from gillnet entanglement. This also has led to the extinction of the Baiji, as we could hear from Professor Wang Ding, and also to the imminent extinction of the vaquita in the Gulf of California and Mexico. Maybe we go to the next slide. This is a graph from the Wahjoc River. We have analyzed the mortalities, what were the causes, and yes, the blue part is 70% is from bycatch. So this is important. If we can stop the bycatch, then we can probably also save this species from extinction. Okay. Next slide. There are actually several solutions for achieving abundant fish resources and reduced mortalities. The first one on top is the fish gear modification, which is using pingers. Pingers is a technical innovation. It's using acoustic deterrents that make an underwater sound at high frequencies and a certain loudness. Now, we have done pilot studies to make sure that these pingers are not deterring dolphins away from the feeding areas, but just at a significant enough distance to make sure they don't end up in the nets. So we have done trial studies with very soft, less loud pingers, where the dolphins were still brave enough sometimes to come close. And then we found the best one at the moment is the one that is 125 decibels. And that one effectively can deter dolphins at a 10-meter distance from the nets. We have now about 155 of these pingers distributed to fishermen in the Wahjoc River, and they all say that before their nets got often damaged because the dolphins like to eat the fish from the nets as well. And now the nets are not damaged anymore, and so also the pingers actually contribute to their fish catch. So either the fish catch stays the same, or sometimes even they're able to get larger catch of certain larger prey species, like catfish. Now, we do not only want to rely on pingers because we think you have to study this if it's, you know, going to be effective for many years or not. So I don't think this could be the whole sole solution, of course, to the problem. So besides that, our organization has done extensive interviews with fishermen and asking them if one day there is a law, because there's actually a district law coming up for the protected area, that will probably ban large mesh-size gill nets, because we found out that the large mesh-size gill nets at about over 7 centimeters in size and mostly 10 centimeters in size are the ones that catch the dolphins. So if this will be banned, what can we give them back in return as an alternative gear that's also equally profitable for them? So we have done analysis on that, and I think these kind of analyses are very important because you don't want to deprive the fishermen from their incomes. So yes, another option is the sustainable forms of aquaculture, but not all kinds of aquaculture. So what we would like to see is that aquaculture is using certain standards, like not using species that are depending on other small fishes, but just can use pellets, and also not place them in slow-flowing parts of lakes or rivers, because then you could get a high nutrient of the pellets that get diluted into the system. Also, the regulations and revisions are an important part. The current district fisheries regulations, there are some flaws in them that need to be corrected. Like there is monopolistic fishing gear that is still legal. So these ones need to be either modified so that they don't use too small mesh size like mosquito nets, which indiscriminately capture all the small fishes. And also for the gill nets, which is a legal fishing tool in Indonesia, and it's also supporting a lot of artisanal fisheries. Still, we can do modifications on these gears as well, besides the pingers, also related to the mesh size, the length and the materials, and the place where they are positioned, or the weights that they are using. If the weight is too heavy, the dolphins cannot lift themselves if they get entangled in a net above. For the net size that are smaller than 6 centimeters, which should be considered safe for dolphins, actually they still would need to have modification like the pinger, because actually we found that the dolphins are still eating those nets. So they're not getting entangled because they can be easily bitten through, but they get ended up in their stomach. So like around 90% of the necropsies that we've done indicated that there were parts of the monofilament nets in their stomach, and not only from one gill net, but several different types of gill nets. So they often eat parts of nets. And of course, one important thing is the law enforcement, and not only law enforcement, but working together with local rangers that can use, like for example, the Smart Patrol, using the cyber tracker system or any other system that is showing whether the effects of the law enforcement are effective. I mean, the impacts of them. So is there really a reduction? We can say, oh, we confiscated so many gears, but if we still see a lot of people doing like electrofishing, for example, which is an illegal fishing method in Indonesia, or poisoning, then we must have an evaluation system. So I think that's important, and you can work with the trained local rangers to do that as well. Here's an example of the interviews in the next slides. Yeah, so we asked those fishermen who had the gill nets with the large mesh size, what would you like to see as an alternative fishing gear? And then actually 86% mentioned that they prefer pots, fish, and fish traps, which is a very traditional fishing method, but actually lucrative. It's a bit expensive for them to obtain these kind of tools at the moment. So the government is now having a program where they give them several of those nets. So it's actually much more lucrative for them to use these artisanal, because the numbers of the tools that they get is more. One of them is also fish aquaculture. It's not that much though. Crop farming, and there's a 4% that does not want to stop gill netting. So yeah, you also have people that that's what they know and that's what they want to do, and they don't want to do other things. Then the alternative gear, also we have, if you look at the fishing tools, then most of them is the fish traps actually, and then we have the pots, and then we have the long line. But the long line is different from the long line in the coastal areas, where many stations get caught as well in long lines, because the hooks are quite small. They're not catching tuna fish in the river, for example, and they're medium-sized fish. So the likelihood of this is to get a problem is not that high, but we're still also investigating this. So my contribution for the moment will be very briefly, because we had a lot of presentations, but feel free to approach, and maybe we can discuss about many things, and I really hope to learn more. And also I think a representative from Indonesia also would like to learn more about what is the good sustainable fishing methods that we can all learn from each other's countries. And yeah, I think we hope together we can make a bright future for both the human population but also the river dolphins. So thank you very much.